Hello everybody, my name is Selena, otherwise known as Scout Tan, and today I'm going to be making a little video on my character design process because I've gotten a commission recently to make my friend's girlfriend into a chef knight. So this is the original design, this is the color scheme that they want me to go with. So we have our palette, which isn't always given, but it is helpful if a commissioner does give the palette when they're asking for a design. So one of the first things that you want to do before you even start sketching is gathering reference images. So the first thing I'm going to search up is chef, because, you know, we're making a chef knight. So I first got, of course, those knife tools, then I have a bunch of different, you know, chef coats, some aprons, and one of the aprons do fit our color scheme, which again, we don't need to gather reference specific to our color scheme, but it does help. One thing that I did find that I quite like is this leather knife roll, which would be really great for utility for her to store both her kitchen tools and her weapons. Having utility on a character and functionality, especially when they are for combat, is very important to keep in mind. You know, they have to have places to put things, and you know, things can get in the way when they're running and fighting. You have to keep all of that in mind. You can't just, you know, arbitrarily put things in places without kind of thinking about it first. Another thing that I put in is these, the like little measuring cups and tablespoons and teaspoons, because characters, if they, you know, it's nice to see variety on characters and having things, you know, hanging off of them, again with the whole utility thing. And when characters move, let's say in a video game, like my specialty is character design in video games, so when I think of characters, I think of how they're going to move in-game and how they're going to look in-game. So having things kind of jangling around and having some, there's a word for it that I'm not remembering right now, like extra motion, like a ponytail flowing when you run, or a scarf, or, you know, having these jangle around, and like it's really helpful for like movement and making a character seem believable. Some like different pans and those drying racks can actually be quite useful to kind of mimic chainmail, to be like rounded around her arms maybe. Just when you're gathering images, you always have to keep in mind what the character, like the uses, like, and think outside the box. Like, what can these things be used in the context of the character? Can it be used to replace certain things? Can it be used to make other things? So now that we're done with finding the chef stuff, we're gonna look into knights. This one I love because it has the little collar there, which, you know, it's not very common when you see knight costumes, so I really do enjoy that. I like the boots very much. They're really cool. The gloves as well, but especially the collar I think I like a lot. And I like this one for like how flowy it is and the little loincloth that's there, but I don't want her to be that covered on the chest. But when I say not that covered, I don't mean like this. I don't want her to be that revealed. I love how she has her arms covered up to her neck with a little, I would say it's like a nearly a vest, like a sleevey vest thing. I like that a lot, but I do not want her to be that revealed. I always start with a base body before I do any actual designing. And I'm just going to show you guys, I actually did a little sketch of a design here, which is very, very rough. And one thing I didn't really like about it was, you know, the sword or knife was really unrealistic, and it was too close to the first one. So we're gonna be doing it again. A thing that you need to keep in mind is how you're making a reference image for this design, so you need to be able to see a lot of the character. You need to be able to see a lot of the details. So if they're standing at the side, you know, or if they're holding a big weapon, or if they're doing something that has them leaning over, it's hiding a lot of the detail, and that's not very good for a reference image. So you need to think about having a more open pose. And one thing that I'm not very good with is I have really stiff poses, which I do need to work on, but if you can, make it seem like a realistic, relaxed pose. If you have a large mirror near you, which I do, you know, you can just look in the mirror. So if you have a full-length mirror where you can look at yourself, it's really helpful for getting a realistic standing pose. You need to think about having, you know, their chest open, even turned a little bit's fine, like doing a 3/4 pose is fine. Actually, I mean, I like it better because sometimes if they're just standing straight like this, it's a little bit stiff. We could always, you know, have them swaying one way or another way. All I'm saying is if you do have access to a full-length mirror, it's really helpful for making a pose. So these base sketches are really, really simple, and you know, they're not proper anatomy by any means. It's just to get the basic idea and the basic, you know, body shape down. One thing that I greatly recommend when you are drawing a character or even with anything is to flip it. Because if it looks great one way, it may look messed up the other way, and things need to, like, think about when you look at yourself in the mirror. You look the same, you more or less look the same in the mirror and out of the mirror, and that's because, you know, your face is built to be symmetrical. So if you think that a face that you're drawing just like this is perfectly symmetrical, when you flip it, you're gonna realize that like one side is more lopsided than the other. It's just all a game of balance. And now we're gonna move on to the fun part, which is kind of sketching out your design. A big thing that I recommend is don't think that your first answer is the right answer, because most of the time it's not. Honestly, most of the time your first design, yeah, it might look good, but then, you know, you can't always go with your first instinct. You know, some people get it right on the first try, but most professionals always do more than one iteration of their design, because they all know that the first answer 90% of the time is not the right answer. So make sure that when you're doing these sketches, you do it on a different layer, and I usually like to do a little bit of a darker color so I don't have to lower the opacity and I can just do it over. Now, I'm just going to quickly go and do her hair. The first thing that I was thinking about doing was the top. Now, chef coats, as you've seen in my Pinterest board, a lot of them, if I can pull one up, there's ones like this one, where the part that goes over the chest kind of comes over further one way than the other way, which I do like. That's a very classic look. But then there's also the double, I don't want to call it double-breasted, but again, one part does go over further, but it has the symmetrical buttons down the middle. So we're going to do a little bit of a play on that, plus we're going to add in having the coat go further down, maybe not that far, but still going further down, and having a, if you can see it, a crisscrossy little like leather pattern like this character here, plus the corset. I love that look, and I want to go with it. And see, these processes aren't retired the second that you're done with them. You always go back and forth. You always look back at your references, because you're never going to have them properly just stuck in your head. So, let's see. I know I liked these boots, but she is more of a leather knight. So maybe we'll look at this one. She's a little bit more on the regal side, which I do like, and I like those boots, and I do like having the heels. I'm not sure if my friend is much of a heels person. Maybe she is. We could do two versions. Again, iteration. I mean, that's a pretty good design right there. And again, we're going to go back into something that I like doing a lot, which is adding utility. So we're going to take a darker color on a different layer. And I just like doing the darker color so you can see the difference between things. And we're going to give her the little knife bag. one big thing that one advice that I can give, and a thing that I don't like when I see character designs, is when utility is put in places that is inconvenient. I also like to keep in mind when I'm designing a character that if someone were to cosplay them, would it be inconvenient or uncomfortable for them to wear? Because if a normal person can't wear it, then a person in a video game probably shouldn't. So putting any form of bag in front by the crotch and thigh area, because when you're running, you're going to be kicking that, you're going to be hitting it. Putting in that same area behind you isn't that bad, but if it's kept higher up, it makes a bit more sense, which is why I'm going to give her that little leather knife bag that I have found right here. Where'd you go? This one that I really like. I'm going to put that at the back. It's probably a lot smaller in real life, but then keep in mind that she's fighting with her tools. Go and make a little bit of a darker color, and we're gonna make weapons. So I was thinking of getting a knife, and again we're gonna go back. So we need to keep in mind this is a knife that needs to be yielded, that, you know, needs to make sense. So I'm thinking of doing a carving knife because the blade's longer, but it still has a pretty sturdy handle, and it's gonna be straight, not granted or serrated, because serrated's for bread and we're not trying to cut bread, we're trying to cut people. So that's one rough design down. I'm gonna go through one more with you guys, and then we'll be done. And we're coming to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching my design process on how to go from a sloppy, unplanned character design to a well thought out, planned out, believable character who looks like they have a story behind them, going through my little process of finding references, then doing a base pose, refining it, and then iteration. So if you guys could subscribe if you want to see more, because I plan on making more little design videos, and find my social media down below. I will see you guys next time. Bye!